Shabbat Shalom. So this week we are looking into some more of the Great Deception. On my BitChute channel, I have a playlist called The Great Deception or The Great End Times Deception. And we have been looking into a number of things which contribute to this great deception. We started off, of course, with the whole doctrine of the Trinity and the deity of Christ, and then I've kind of gone on to other things which are all contribute to this great deception, this great end times deception. I call it the great deception because Yeshua said in Matthew 24 verse 24 that even the elect would be deceived if that were possible. So this is the deception of all deceptions. So the enemy's work, and when I talk about the enemy, I'm referring to the Hasatan, the accuser. He is the enemy who is behind all these things. When we look into biblical eschatology, we see that when we speak about the beast and the false prophet, we see that it is the red dragon behind them, giving them his power. And so this red dragon is Hasatan, the accuser. The one who stands before God accusing the saints, trying to bring disrepute on the saints. So we've been looking into seeing a number of contributing factors to this great deception. Of course, the big one is the false doctrines that are taught by the church that have been inherited from Greek philosophical thinking, formulated by Greek philosophical thinking and perpetuated by the church throughout the ages. So this is the big one. Then we have a number of contributing factors. And today I want to look at what is revealed in Daniel, the prophet Daniel, what is further elaborated on in the book of Revelation in the New Testament. It is to just looking at the beast. The beast, more commonly referred to as the Antichrist. Most people regard this as a person, and just about everyone is looking to try and identify who this person is. So we're going to have a brief look at this beast that is prophesied by Daniel and revealed to John in the Revelation, and we will see some of the similarities and differences to what is commonly and popularly taught. Daniel, the book of Daniel, is the key to understanding Revelation. So when we come to the book of Revelation and we look in and we see all of these kind of allegorical, metaphorical descriptions of things, we have a very good interpretive key in the book of Daniel, because there is historical fulfillment in Daniel and prophecies that were given to Daniel that we can see the historic fulfillment and understand what it means, what it pertains to. So I'm going to read for you a couple of chapters from a couple of passages from Daniel and from Revelation, just as I'm not going into deep exegesis of the beast and the false prophet, just an introduction to get some idea. And what I'm really aiming at here is to try and see in the world today what's going on around us in the world today that looks anything like this. So the key that we see in Daniel, the interpretive tool that we have in Daniel, is the visions of the beast. And particularly Daniel gets a vision of a ram and a goat, and these two fight, and then in the goat has one big horn, and then from that one big horn 4 smaller horns come up, and we see this fulfilled in the conquest of Alexander the Great. So the goat with the two horns was the empire of the Medes and the Persians, which is also uh, reflected in the vision of the statue, Nebuchadnezzar's dream of the statue. Um, and so we have the Medes and the Persians with a Babylonian kingdom, which is now under the control of the Medes and the Persians. That is conquered by Alexander the Great, the goat with the one big horn. Alexander the Great dies at the pinnacle of his career, as it were, and for his empire, he's now conquered the world, the known world, the Fertile Crescent, Mesopotamia. He's conquered it. That's kind of the known world, the empire, the center of civilization, and he has now conquered it. He dies, and it's split up between his four generals, and so we have the four horns that replace the one horn. And so we see this vision of beasts and horns, and we see how they are fulfilled historically. So when we get these descriptions of beasts with horns, future tense, we can understand how they should appear in our physical reality here on earth. What should we expect to see? And so it's to do with politics. It's to do with rulers and leaders of nations and empires, the powers that exercise dominion over the earth. This is exactly what was described through the prophet Daniel and what we see played out in history. And there is yet fulfillment of some of those visions and dreams to take place. So, Daniel chapter 7 and Daniel chapter 9 and Daniel chapter 11, parts of those chapters all have some descriptions, some information regarding this beast. So going to Daniel chapter 7 first, verses 23 to 26. Verse 23. Then he explained. So he's had the vision and he's seen it now. He wants to know what the interpretation of the vision is. And there is this angelic figure, revealing to him the meanings of this vision. Thus he explained, the fourth beast will be a fourth kingdom on earth that will be different from all the other kingdoms. It will devour the whole earth and trample it and crush it. As for the 10 horns, out of this kingdom 10 kings will arise. Another will arise after them, but he will be different from the previous ones. He will subdue 3 kings. He will speak words against the Most High and will continually harass the Kedoshim of the Most High and will try to change the appointed times and law. The Kedoshim, holy ones or saints, will be handed over to him for a time, times, and half a time. Times, and half a time is 3 score and 3 score and a half, so it's not 3 score. A time is 3.5 years. So a time is a year times 2 years, and half a time is half a year. So 3.5 years. He will continually harass the Kedoshim, the Most High, and will try to change the appointed times and laws. The Kedoshim will be handed over to him for a time, times, and half a time. But the court will sit, and he will be stripped of his power to be destroyed and abolished for all time. So there's a description of this beast which is to come. It is described as a kingdom. The fourth beast will be a fourth kingdom on the earth. Verse 23. So it is described as a kingdom. We understand from the prophecies of Daniel, beginning with the Nebuchadnezzar's dream of the statue, that these beasts, the subsequent visions of the beasts that he gets, are correlate with the statue. The first was Babylon. The second is the Medes and the Persians. The third is Greece, the Greeks, and then the fourth was Rome. And then with the statue, we see a further development. Rome splits into two legs, and then you have the feet, which are partly iron, partly clay. The legs are iron, and then the 2 feet with 10 toes become the part iron, part clay. So we have some further insights into what this beast will be. So the beast, the first thing to notice is the beast is a kingdom, an empire, not a person yet. We're getting there, but a empire, a system of governance, a world, authoritative, controlling. It holds the power. So the previous empires were those ruled by a king. This fourth one is going to be different. And we already have some of the differences hinted at. He has 10 horns, which represent 10 kings will arise. We know from the ram and the goat prophecy that the horns represent the person, the people. So the kings, the actual people who are in control. So the fact that there are 10 kings is different to what came before. The previous empires, previous beasts that were seen in his vision, they had one king, one ruler. Now we have this beast with 10 kings, 10 horns. Out of this kingdom, 10 kings will arise. Another will arise after them, and he will be different. So we have another horn, another king arising after these 10, and he will be different to these 10. This is important to keep in mind when we're considering our own immediate situation, political situation in the world. The fact that this one is different. So, the kingdom is different. My contention is that this kingdom has been on the go for some time already. This world empire, this beast, has been in effect and on the go for some time. So we have things like, well, we're going to come to that with the next passage in Revelation chapter 13. Revelation 13 from verse 1. Revelation 13 verses 1 to 8. Then I saw a beast rising out of the sea. Every word has important details. He's rising out of the sea that had 10 horns, same as Daniel, and 7 heads. A different aspect to this beast. On his horns were 10 royal crowns, and upon his heads were slanderous names. Now the beast that I saw was like a leopard, and his feet was like bears, and his mouth was like lions. And the dragon gave him his power and his throne and great authority. Remember, the Satan has been given authority to rule on this earth. And so he now gives that authority to this beast from the sea with the 7 heads and 10 horns. And the dragon gave him his power and throne and great authority. One of his heads seemed to have been slain, but the fatal wound was healed. The whole earth was amazed and followed the beast, and they worshipped the dragon because he had given authority to the beast. They also worshipped the beast, chanting, "Who is like the beast, and who can make war against him?" The beast was given a mouth, uttering great boasts and blasphemies. It was given authority to act for 42 months. 42 months is the same length of time as a time, times, and half a time. So it's time, times, and half a time, 42 months, or 1,260 days. That's the way it is referred to in the scriptures. 3.5 years, working on a biblical year being 360 days, as opposed to our Gregorian calendar, which has 365 days. So the beast was given a mouth uttering great boasts and blasphemies. It was given authority to act for 42 months. Then he opened his mouth with blasphemies against God to slander his name and his tabernacle, that is, those dwelling in heaven. He was also permitted to make war against the saints and to overcome them, and he was given authority over every tribe and people and tongue and nations. All who dwell on the earth shall worship him, everyone whose name has not been written from the foundation of the world in the book of life of the Lamb who was slain. So, just a short aside. The beast is a kingdom. A kingdom can be an empire, a ruling system. So a system that rules the world, has power and authority over the people of the world. So in the Western world, the prevailing system is democracy from a political perspective and capitalism from an economic perspective. So some have coined phrases like capitalocracy or things like that, corporatocracy, or which kind of give a truer spin on what it actually is. It's not really a true democracy. It's more, and it's turning more and more into what's becoming more and more evident to most people, that it all revolves around capitalism, around money, around profits, and 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 greed and power, which is money is power. So this beast is a system, it's a kingdom, it's an empire, and people get thrown with the word worship because they immediately think of religion. So when you read worship, you think of going to church and singing praises to God or a God, or going to a temple or a synagogue or a mosque, or and bowing down in adoration of an idol or some figurine or some. So you think you read worship and you think religion. Worship simply means that thing to which you give all your honor, and and where you place all your value. So pursuing wealth, the pursuit of happiness, the pursuit of wealth and power, um, the pursuit itself is a worship of that thing, because that is the thing that you put all your value in and you pursue with all your heart and soul and your life. And so uh, the system, just for as an example, the Western system of capitalism really has been in force for a long time already, and people have been worshipping it by the pursuit of happiness, the pursuit of wealth, the pursuit of um, the rat race, chasing after this um, uh, desire for more. And so this is an aspect of what this beast could look like, or may look like, may be. Certainly it is different and very powerful. In the past, the kingdoms of the past, the kingdoms that Daniel saw and knew historically, these were kingdoms that were ruled, that were won and ruled by military conquest. And they were ruled by a king who was worshipped, who was obeyed and honored and submitted to, and in many cases literally worshipped, um, as almost the divine figure. So we have this picture of the beast, which is more than just a man, more than just a person. It's not a person, actually. It's a system. And we see from Daniel, from Revelation, adding to what we saw in Daniel, that not only does it have 10 horns, which represent the people, the leaders, the physical leaders, the kings, uses the term king, and it uses the analogy of crowns representing kingship, but also it has 7 heads. So 7 heads represent the nations or countries. So the crown, the horns represent people, heads represent the nations. So this beast um, can be said to be made up of 7 primary nations. I'm hoping by this stage your ears are starting to ring as you beginning to connect the dots. We have a thing called the G7, which is the 7 most economically powerful nations on earth. And so this G7 are those who call the shots and who make the policy decisions for the world. So how is it that it has 10 heads? Well, 10 horns, sorry, 7 heads, 10 horns. There is another horn that comes up, which subdues 3 horns. So brings us kind of back down to 7 from 10. The one subdues 3, and so we're back to 7. And this horn, this leader, is different to the others. This is the final leader who really leads, controls the movements, the actions, the trajectory of this beast. And it's this final leader who we look to, most people are trying to identify as the Antichrist. Really, the beast, the whole system is the Antichrist. But he is given flesh, he's given a face. The beast is given a face by this final leader. So there have been, if the beast has been going for a while, there have been leaders that have come and gone that have been these 10 kings. The king is the seat, and there are people who come and go, just like Nebuchadnezzar's king. Nebuchadnezzar was the golden head of that statue, and so he was there, but his sons after him continued, remained. Babylon didn't fall suddenly. It was a gradual decline, and then Medo-Persia took over, and so on. So you see that the king, the crown, is the position which can be occupied by various people over time. And so the final horn, final crown, who will then be in sitting during the final 3.5 years, is a mystery. We're not sure yet. We won't know until the time comes that he begins to do what we see done, what we see Daniel explaining. And so we have what we do see in Daniel is, one, he will be different to the others. Number 2, he is very, very boastful. It's the one word that is used time and again, a number of times in Daniel and even here in Revelation. It is a word that is used of this horn, this physical man who will be the ruler of ruling this beast. The one characteristic that is repeated a number of times is his boastfulness. And I always thought that that's a very interesting word. It's not just pride. It's not just being proud, being arrogant. It's being boastful. And his achievements. The other interesting thing that Daniel reveals is that he doesn't put his trust and his faith and his confidence in the God of his forefathers. He puts his confidence in money, in wealth. He uses money to buy armies to exercise the conquests that he needs to do physically. But a lot of his conquest is not done through military actions, but through economics, through buying. Says he parcels out land for a price, and so he's someone who does deals. Okay, I'm not mentioning any names, but there is a election in progress. So we get some more information, if we go to Revelation chapter 17. Revelation 17, verses 8 to 11, really. The whole of Revelation 17 has to do with the harlot. The harlot rides on the beast, this same beast. And so, again, if you think of the beast as being the system, an empire, which is a system, then it's easier to understand the harlot riding on this beast. So I'll read verses 8 to 11. Well, let me read the whole thing because I want to say a few words about the harlot too. Then one of the seven angels holding the seven bowls came and spoke with me, saying, Come, I will show you the sentencing of the great prostitute, who sits on many waters. The earth's kings committed sexual immorality with her, and those who dwell on the earth got drunk with the wine of her immorality. So he carried me away on the ruach in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast that was full of blasphemous names, and had 7 heads and 10 horns. The woman was clothed in purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls. She was holding a golden cup in her hand, full of detestable things, and the filth of her immorality. And on her forehead was written a name, a mystery: Babylon the Great, the mother of prostitutes and the detestable things of the earth. And I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the Kedoshim, the saints, and with the blood of the witnesses of Yeshua. When I saw her, I was totally astounded. But the angel said to me, Why are you astonished? I will tell you the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carries her, which has the 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast that you saw was and is not, and yet is about to rise up from the abyss and head for destruction. Those who dwell on the earth, whose names have not been written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, will be astonished when they see the beast, because he was and is not and is to come. This calls for a mind having wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman is seated. There are also 7 kings. 5 have fallen, one is, the other has not yet come, and when he comes, he must remain a little while. The beast that was and is not, he himself is the 8th, and is one of the 7, and is heading for destruction. The 10 horns that you saw are 10 kings who have not yet received royal power, but receive authority as kings with the beast for 1 hour. These kings are of one mind, and they give their power and authority to the beast. They will make war against the Lamb, and the Lamb will overcome them, because he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and those with him are called and chosen and faithful. Then he tells me, the waters that you saw where the prostitute is seated are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. The 10 horns that you saw and the beast, these will hate the prostitute. They will make her desolate and naked, and devour her flesh, and burn her up with fire. For God has put into their hearts to do his will, and to be of one mind, and to give their royal power to the beast, until the words of God are fulfilled. And the woman that you saw is the great city, exercising kingship over the kings of the earth. So, very interesting, maybe very confusing, but very interesting. All very metaphorical language, but as we see through Daniel, it has a very clear physical outworking on earth through the political wranglings and the wranglings of the powers that be, and now with the harlot, a very interesting, not so much a twist, but an addition to the picture. Throughout the Old Testament, Israel is portrayed as the wife of God. Well, not really throughout the Old Testament, but in a number of places, Israel is described as the wife of God. The one prophet Hosea, he is instructed to marry a prostitute so that he can demonstrate to Israel what they are doing to God. God is their husband, Israel is the wife, the prostitute. And the way she behaves, Hosea's wife, which she does then go and have affairs and what have you, and he then has to come and buy her back. And so this is a demonstration of how Israel behaves towards God. So unfaithfulness and prostitution is used in Scripture as a description of kind of a physical, tangible description, something that we can relate to, of God's relationship with his people, Israel. And I would suggest his people, period. That includes those who are grafted in. So when there is unfaithfulness, it is described as prostitution or adultery. And so the prostitute, more than just being another political figure or nation or power, it has more spiritual, religious significance. It has more to do with a people or a group's relationship with God. Someone who is supposed to be in a relationship with God, who is behaving, prostituting themselves. And so the prostitute is most evangelical eschatology scholars, end time scholars, think that it's kind of a cut and dry deal. The harlot of Babylon is the Roman Catholic Church, and that's it. We've got it sorted. We understand what it is, and that's what it is. And he even drinks out of a gold chalice, and he wears purple robes, and so definitely the Catholic Church is it. I'm very suspicious of anything that's too obvious. We have seen Yeshua himself warned us, Matthew 24, verse 24, the deception will be so great that even the elect would be deceived, if that were possible. So for anything to be too obvious is suspicious, because then it's too obvious. Then it's clearly, it's not deception. It's just a blatant lie or error. So we have a thing which we have those who would be accused of being conspiracy theorists. So in the last few years, through COVID, a large percentage of, I think, previously uninterested or ignorant people have become very much awake to how the powers work and the conspiracies that are at play in the governments of the world, in the powers behind the governments of the world. And so there are very real conspiracies at work, which generally are squashed, are dismissed, are discredited by the authorities as being conspiracy theories. And so you're all a bunch of nutcases. And so those who question, those who raise these issues, are dismissed by the general public as just being crazies, fringe lunatics, because they're into all sorts of weird ideas. So many weird ideas have proven to be true. And so a lot of these conspiracy theorists have now been vindicated, and things have been true. And in the process, what we have come to learn is that there are, this is now speaking to the obviousness and lack of obviousness of what's really going on. We became aware of the reality of a thing which is now is referred to as controlled opposition. So in the enemy's kind of toolbox of mechanisms to bring about his plan on earth, we have, in a very simplest form, the Hegelian dialectic, which is the um, uh, um, problem, reaction, solution. That's kind of the very simplest description of the Hegelian dialectic, which is a power has a desire for a community, a group, in this case the world, to move in a direction that is not necessarily a very popular direction to move in, or not, it may be uncomfortable. And so a problem is generated, a crisis, a great panic. The solution is offered, which is something that, uh, um, reaction is the panic, and then the solution is offered, which is something that would not ordinarily be welcomed. But because of the panic, because of the problem, which caused the panic, this now looks like the only possible solution to the problem. And as much as we don't like it, it's our only way out. And so we accept the solution. So that's kind of in a nutshell. Now we understand that things are not so simple. So you have, in the panic that we had in the last few years, we had a number of folk arising who saw through this whole problem, reaction, solution, and saw that the solution, in fact, was not a good thing at all. And that's a problem for those who are trying to effect this whole movement. So to have these dissidents who see through the whole idea is a problem for the powers that be. And so, kind of going deeper into how the mechanisms work, is that problem, reaction, solution is made up of more parts than that. That's the simplest description. It's made up of more parts. So within that whole problem, reaction, solution process, it's necessary to have smaller steps that can undermine or confuse or so we have this group of people going in this direction. That's the direction we want them to go in. Then we have the dissidents who see through the plan, and they're going this way. So now it's necessary for us to catch them as well, and to bring them back onto the path that we want them to go onto. So how do we do that? We have the divide and conquer technique. And so you have controlled opposition. So you have these going in this direction, and then you have those who stand up and say, hang on a minute, this is not right. This is wrong. Let's go this way, because this way is wrong. Those people who stand up and speak become the heroes of this group who see the problems. So these spokesmen, and we have a number who sprung up over the last few years, through the crisis that we've had in the last few years, who became the champions, the heroes, because they spoke out and they spoke truth, and they helped to try and warn as many of the people going in the wrong direction that they must get on the right track, because that's the wrong direction. Now, this is all being thought out by the powers that be. So they have this, they understand that. And so these spokesmen, the heroes, many of them, even unknowingly, are controlled opposition. They speaking out, but then the other facets, the other lies that are put into place to help to redirect this group are what get the spokesman to, they themselves begin to speak for, unknowingly even, for the powers that be that are controlling the group that was on the right track. Because the thing that was the problem that was created in the beginning, that wasn't the big thing. That was just a smokescreen to sort out who's the who and who's going to see clearly, who's going to see, and ultimately they would bring in the real issue, which is to get the majority onto the path that they want them. And so we have this uh, controlled opposition, which for me suddenly became the whole harlot of Babylon suddenly became clearer, not who it is or what it is. I do believe that it most certainly is a group. I'll get to that in a moment. But one of the things that I've discovered that it 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 has within it is a description of how the enemy works. And so the harlot is riding on the beast. It's a symbiotic relationship. The beast does not like, we just read it in the scriptures, where the beast does not like the harlot, and he's going to turn and devour her. But for the time being, while it serves his purposes, he is giving her what she wants. And so it's this symbiotic relationship that is kind of like the controlled opposition. They kind of think they're on the right track, but at the end of the day, it's going to come back and bite them because having trusted these heroes, these spokesmen, they're now believing everything that they're saying, and now they're starting to speak things about other things that are not accurate, and it's leading those who were on the right path astray. And so the harlot is like that. She's riding. It's this mutual relationship that is going to come back and bite her at the end. So we have a number of realities at play, and I want to end with the last thing is so we've got. Okay, before I get there, let me just give you the last reading. It's Daniel chapter 11. Daniel chapter 11, verses 40 to 45. So Daniel 11 has given the whole description of really the history of the Middle East from the time that Alexander's generals took over his empire. And it's described the backwards and forwards between Syria and Egypt, Assyria, Turkey, and Egypt. The Seleucids, of the four generals, two of them were prominent, the Seleucids and the Ptolemies. The Ptolemies took Egypt, and the Seleucids took Assyria and what is now Turkey. And so there was this backwards and forwards between what is referred to in Daniel 11 as the king of the north and the king of the south. So the kings changed, but it's always referred to as the king of the north, king of the south, and their battles between each other, and then Israel, which is caught in between and is affected variously. And then when it comes to the end of chapter 11, it moves forward in history to describing what happened with a particular king, Antiochus Epiphanes, but he's a type of the final Antichrist to come. And so what is said there becomes a future prophecy about the ultimate end. So from verse 40, now at the time of the end, the king of the south will attack him, and the king of the north will storm out against him with chariots, horsemen, and many ships. He will invade lands and pass through them like an overflowing river. He will also invade the beautiful land, that's Israel. Many will be overthrown, but these will escape from his hand: Edom, Moab, and the chief of the sons of Ammon. He will extend his hand against other countries. The land of Egypt will not escape. He will gain control over the hidden treasures of gold and silver, as well as all of the riches of Egypt. The Libyans and the Cushites will also be under his feet. But reports from the east and the north will alarm him, and he will set out in great rage to destroy and annihilate many. He will pitch his royal tents between the seas and the beautiful holy mountain, yet he will meet his doom with no one to help him. So now this final prince that is to come. He goes to war, he subdues the nations of the earth, and including Egypt, including those enemies of Israel. But rumors from the north and the east alarm him, and he will go to war. And he pitches his royal tents between the sea and the beautiful mountain that is um, the Mediterranean Sea and the Temple Mount. The beautiful mountain is Mount Moriah, which is where the Temple Mount stands. So it's Old City of Jerusalem, which is kind of where the United States Embassy is now. When Trump moved the embassy to Jerusalem, it is kind of between the seas, plural. So it's between the Mediterranean Sea and the Dead Sea, and it's kind of southwest of the holy mountain of the Mount Moriah. So it's a so what we have, and the question is, what is there in the world today that looks anything like what is described in the scriptures? I don't know if I've given the clearest description. I've just read mostly the passages. But if you understand, if we go into a detailed exegesis of what these things mean in physical reality, I'm just going to give you my view, having studied this and seeing what's going on in the world today. I'm just going to give you my view, and I'll leave you to go and check and decide if you think it kind of has any merit at all. The three big issues we have today, and I'm not saying any of this is fact. I'm speculating because we can't, until we know for sure, we don't know for sure. So, but we can look at what we see around us. And my question is there anything in the world today which resembles any of what I've described? To me, there's a lot. So the three big issues currently on the go is what I've noted in my notes here as the Jews. I'm just putting it out there as the Jews. So it's the Middle East conflict, it's the war with Hamas, and now the imminent war with Hezbollah. But I'm saying the Jews because it's more than a rise of anti-Semitism. It's around the world there is this divide between pro-Palestine and pro-Israel, and the clashing of opinions. And so it's back to a Jewish thing. So, and if you've been following any of the issues, you will know that there's this new catchphrase which is very real, very true, which is no Jews, no news. So when there's any kind of, if you see the horrors that the Palestinians, Hamas, other Muslim groups are affecting on each other for various reasons, for theft, whatever. You see the horrors that is happening. You don't hear about it because it's no Jews, no news. So the first thing is the Middle East, which is really what I've kind of just in a nutshell put as the Jews. It's a global thing about the Jews. Secondly, we have the elections coming up in the United States, Trump versus Biden. And thirdly, we have Russia. And so it's not, again, more than just Russia-Ukraine issue, it's Russia. And Russia's affiliations with these countries that Ezekiel 38 describes, the alliances that Russia has with, so what we read about this in Daniel, about rumors from the north and the east alarm this prince that is to come. And so what kind of rumors can that be? Russia has just signed an agreement with North Korea, a military agreement of mutual aid to one another. Russia already has that kind of agreement with those countries that are described in Daniel. Put and Cush is Ethiopia and Libya. I was like, North African countries, what? But Russia has agreements with them. South Africa taking Israel to International Criminal Court is a major issue when we think about that. What does Africa care about the Middle East conflict? Well, Africa is becoming front and center of this Middle East conflict. We read in Ezekiel that the king of the north is not really, God puts hooks in his jaw to pull him into a conflict with Israel. And so it's not necessarily a conflict that is Russia's or this Gog Magog. If it is Russia, certainly it's north, and so Turkey qualifies, Russia qualifies, and they're all anti-Israel. So we have and then we have the collaboration with Russia and China. China's east, biblically east of Israel, is Iraq, Iran, Persia. But if we take the bigger world concept stage as it is now, in the biblical times, Persia was really east. That was the world. Now the world is so much bigger, and so those countries like China come into play from the biblical perspective. And so we see alliances in the east, which really do make the West very nervous. And so we have on the world stage falling into place the issues that are described in Scripture. I've speculated previously. I speculated when Trump lost his second term. I speculated that if he comes back into power, it could be like that head that seemed to be mortally wounded comes back. We see in Revelation it's described as the one who is no more, and will be. And so that could be a picture of Rome itself. Remember, the beast is more than just the man. And so it could be the empire. The Roman Empire seems to have been lost and gone, but we know that Rome is still alive. I mean, the whole American system, legal system and governance system is based on the Roman system. Certainly all the architecture is Romanesque architecture. So we know that from Nebuchadnezzar's vision, the legs of iron continue. And so it's very Roman continuation of what this final beast will be. Will have Roman aspects to it. And so it could be Roman, it could be something like Trump lost office and comes back. He was no more and will be. So we have these things on happening on the world stage. The rise again of anti-Semitism and the Jewish the power of Israel, military power, which is a threat to the Middle East. But more than that is the natural gases that are discovered and the minerals that Israel has, which are a very tantalizing what's the word for a temptation for the powers that rule the world. So just from a casual glance, if you know end times theology at all, just a kind of a casual glance at what's going on in the world, without saying that this is that, and this is for sure, and this is definite, and Trump is the Antichrist, and anything like that. Just looking at how the wranglings in the world, the political wranglings and geopolitical movements, how what's happening, and how does that marry with what we read is going to be happening at the time of the end. And it certainly looks very, very similar to what we read in the scriptures. So most scholars are saying we're definitely in the time of the end. Most evangelicals think that we're going to be raptured out of here before any of this takes place, and so it's not yet because we're still here. To me, I can categorically state, I'll put my head on a block and I will defend this from the scriptures. if anyone wants to know, I will happily give evidence that that theory is a lie. It is not taught in Scripture. It is a man-made interpretation of Scripture and misinterpreting Scriptures to come to the conclusion that the church will be raptured out of here before the Great Tribulation begins, the 3.5 years that this Antichrist rules. So I hope that's provocative and brings some thought and a desire to know more and to go to the Scriptures and read. That's where you will find the answers. Amen. Amen.